Welcome, one and all, to Lemon Live at 5 at the start of this holiday week, the Thanksgiving week. We're so glad that you're here. Just because it's Thanksgiving week doesn't mean that the news slows down. You see my panel of the very best legal minds out there, and they're going to join me to talk about what happened today with the James Comey case and Letitia James, two Jameses, right? And the Letitia James case, both thrown out by a judge who says that the prosecutor in this case was not legally put in place. So I'm going to bring in my fine group of folks here. Dina Dahl is an attorney, a legal analyst, and the host of the Midas Touch on the Midas Touch Network. Glenn Kirshner is a former federal prosecutor and the host of the Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner podcast. And Charles Coleman is an MSNBC legal analyst, a former prosecutor, and a civil rights attorney. Thank you all for joining. Glenn, what does this mean for Donald Trump, the Trump administration, his Justice Department, and this is bad?
Yeah, a couple of big picture things here, Don. First of all, this is a good day for the rule of law. And it also shows that I think incompetence, imbecility, and an insatiable appetite for revenge is no way to run the Department of Justice, my beloved home for decades. And as Charles was saying before we jumped on here, this is a true embarrassment, mainly for the Department of Justice. I don't want to lay this at the feet of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia, because this was exclusively a Trump flunky, Lindsay Halligan's show. And what Judge Curry just ruled was that because she was unlawfully appointed, and I don't think that was a tough legal call, because federal judges have made the same call about Elena Haba up in the District of New Jersey. She was an unlawfully appointed interim U.S. attorney. We can go coast to coast. Out in the Middle District of California, U.S. Attorney's Office, Bill Asali, another Trump flunky, was unlawfully appointed as U.S. attorney. And now Judge Curry has ruled that the same holds true for Lindsay Halligan. And because Lindsay Halligan was the only one who walked into the grand jury and somehow convinced them to indict James Comey and Letitia James in separate cases of some trumped up, what looked to me to be vindictive charges, the indictments are what the judge said are void ab initio. They're wrong from the start. They're dead in the water. She dismissed them. She tossed them out. And now the next question is, will they be appealed by the Trump administration? And if so, what are the chances that this thing is going to get reversed on appeal? And even if they are reversed on appeal, I think James Comey's indictment has timed out because they didn't make it within the statute of limitations with a lawful, valid indictment. So I think his case might be permanently over. I do think they'll probably refile charges against Letitia James because her alleged crimes are still within the statute of limitations. But she has just begun to fight because she's going to have a vindictive prosecution claim and a selective prosecution claim, an abuse of the grand jury claim. So, these are really important wins. As I say, a good day for the rule of law, a good day for justice. And I think it bodes pretty well moving forward for both James Comey and Letitia James.
And the judge ruled without prejudice, right? Which means that they can refile. But as you said, with James Comey, Glenn, the statute of limitations is run out. They can try to fight it, but from what I've heard from most legal folks that I've heard, they probably won't be successful with that. The other thing is that they're going to have to find someone to refile it who, number one, believes in the case, and number two, who has been appointed or put into place lawfully, correct? So those are two hurdles.
Yeah, and it has to be somebody who really doesn't care that much about their license to practice law. Because why in the world anybody would plug in to cases like this and put their law license on the line is beyond me. But Don, I have a feeling Trump and Pam Bondi will come up with somebody. They'll scrape the bottom of the barrel a little bit harder, and they'll probably be able to find somebody who is willing to, hitch their wagon to the Comey prosecution and the James prosecution.
The question is, Dina, is it going to be someone similar to Lindsay Halligan who, needs this for, I guess, for clout, or because she, wants to be part of the Trump administration? But it's going to be someone like that, because these cases, there were people who, correct me if I'm wrong, who resigned because they didn't believe in the Comey case, correct?
Well, exactly. I mean, this is really why it was overturned, essentially, is they tried to make this a political indictment. Even though the ruling is saying that she was illegally there, it's because her term was 120 days. The attorney general had 120 days in which to appoint an interim prosecutor, which meant that her standing, let's say, as the U.S. attorney was expired September 22nd. And so they tried to play a political game, and this is not politics. And so I think it's the same idea, to your point of, will another prosecutor step in? Another prosecutor who cares about political ambition, let's say, may step in, right, and be willing to do this. But a career prosecutor, somebody who actually cares about not only following the law ethically, but frankly getting a victory in court. Most prosecutors, if you've ever been a prosecutor, I'm sure Glenn would say this, always have their record, right? They'll be like, I've never lost in court or whatever. It's because they're very usually selective about what cases to bring. They care about their reputation in court. They tend to bring cases only they think they're going to win. So a prosecutor, if they find somebody after this who can be validly appointed, they would then have to be both to have the expertise and the experience to be validly appointed, and yet kind of throw it all away in order to have this political prosecution. And perhaps there's somebody out there, but today, at least, I think that's the idea. You cannot politically prosecute somebody. They tried to do it by having her there, Halligan there, beyond the 120 days.
Mm-hmm. Charles, what do you think you think they are going to refile it? I believe you told us before we came on, but what do you say?
I think they're going to refile it, if only to try and save face. They may not be able to necessarily refile the Comey case for the statutory reasons that Glenn has already leaned into. But certainly when it went with respect to Letitia James, I think that is a case that they will look to refile. It's important to understand a few things, just to double click on both what Glenn and Dina have already said. Number one, it is a real sign when you have career prosecutors at the federal level who have walked away from the Department of Justice, because you don't get to be a federal prosecutor without believing in the work, without believing in the job. There are lots of other things that you can go off and do when you are a AUSA, that if you stay in that office, it means that you have a commitment to the actual work that's being done. And the fact that folks have chosen to walk away from it should be very telling about their feelings around how this office under this administration is going about executing its duties. Number two, I think it's also important to understand, and I may sound like a broken record here because I've said this before, America's future is in the hands of the judiciary. And this is something that we saw take place today in these decisions in Virginia. It was the judiciary that said, you cannot do this effectively around to the executive branch, even though it wasn't necessarily explicit in that way. It was saying, hey, you can do this. And then just, Don, to crystallize it for the viewers, it's important to understand that, this was actually something that was very avoidable. Like, in the sense that you have a pretty strong relationship with the Senate, such that you have gotten unqualified judges appointed and confirmed. If you just took a little bit of time to look for someone and get them appointed, you probably would have avoided this altogether. So this is an unforced error. I believe we talked about previously on the show. This is an unforced error by this administration in Halligan's appointment, just like Alina Baba's. And I think that sort of warrants revisiting. And then the other thing that I want to say very quickly to viewers is that even if and when I am predicting that they file against Letitia James, there are still a number of grounds that I expect her attorneys to exercise as a means of getting the case dismissed again. Please understand that this was just one of the grounds that were for dismissal that the judge granted. I expect to see more motions to dismiss filed and more arguments to be heard. And it would not surprise me to see the case dismissed again. Now, whether they will be with prejudice or without prejudice, that remains to be seen. But it is not unlikely that this will be one of many dismissals of this indictment.
Man, and now they're going after Ruben Gallego. That's a whole nother thing that we're going to talk about. But Glenn, how do you think, and we're going to hear from Comey in a moment, how do you think the Trump folks are feeling today? Is Donald Trump raging and throwing hamburgers?
He's raging, Don. But here is why I love this result. Not only because it's a good day for the rule of law, it's a good day for justice. This exposes Donald Trump for the paper tiger he is.
Yeah.
He is weak. He can threaten people all day long. I'm going to prosecute you. I'm going to lock you up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But guess what? He can't follow through. He is not the dictator he so desperately wants to be. Now, listen, you can bring baseless charges, and that is, I'm sure, cold comfort to Comey and to Letitia James that they have had to defend against unlawful charges, vindictive charges that were returned by an unlawfully appointed Trump flunky like Lindsey Halligan. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump can't successfully prosecute people. And what does that do? That weakens him. I think he has been weakened both, in the courts, in the court of public opinion, in Congress, with now members of his own party bucking him, whether on tariffs or on nominees or on the vote on the Epstein file release. And I think once the grip of the aspiring dictator begins to loosen, and it is loosening, I don't think it retightens, Don. So I think this is another real blow to Donald Trump's power and authority and his ability to successfully intimidate people and instill fear, because he just went down in flames in prosecutions that were very important to him.
Glenn, I know you have a time crunch. You have to go in a few minutes, but I just want to can I play this for James Comey? And I want to get you to respond to it. Here's James Comey's response.
I'm grateful that the court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence, and a reflection of what the Department of Justice has become under Donald Trump, which is heartbreaking. But I was also inspired by the example of the career people who refused to be part of this travesty. It cost some of them their jobs, which is painful, but it preserved their integrity, which is beyond price. And I know they will serve again. I was very lucky that some of the best lawyers in America stepped forward to represent me. I hope they serve as an example to more and more lawyers, especially at some of the big firms, to participate in protecting our liberty, protecting the rule of law. And my family and friends were always with me, and luckily for me, include some of those great lawyers. This case mattered to me personally, obviously, but it matters most because a message has to be sent that the President of the United States cannot use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies. I don't care what your politics are, you have to see that as fundamentally un-American and a threat to the rule of law that keeps all of us free. I know that Donald Trump will probably come after me again, and my attitude is going to be the same. I'm innocent, I am not afraid, and I believe in an independent federal judiciary, the gift from our founders that protects us from a would-be tyrant. When I was a kid, my parents would wake us up for school.
So he's giving an anecdote there. Glenn, I just want to, look, not that I want you to be a broken record, but he's essentially saying what you're saying. This is a good day for the rule of law. What did you think of his response?
I liked it. Courage is contagious. And he proved once again, just like the law firms that stood up to Donald Trump and kicked his butt in court proved, just like even unaccompanied Guatemalan minors, for gosh sakes, went to court and stood up to Trump and won. Universities are standing up to Trump, some of them. News organizations, entertainment outlets are standing up to Trump and winning. Courage is contagious.
So what are you saying, Glenn? You're mentioning all those folks. What are you saying? Is this the beginning of the end? Is Donald Trump becoming a lame duck? What are you saying here?
Oh, I wish I could say we've turned a corner, Don. I'm not prepared to say that, but I do think Donald Trump is getting weaker. And I think more people are realizing that his fears and his intimidation, his tactics are not to be feared the way he wants. People are not going to continue to bend the knee. People are standing up, speaking out, staying strong. We got to march. We got to protest. We got to do it all. And I think James Comey just proved that. He stood up and he defeated Donald Trump. And there's more of that to come.
Glenn Kirshner, thank you very much. We appreciate you joining. We'll see you soon.
Thanks,
we're
Don.
back with more from the rest of our panel. You're going to hear from how is Caroline Leavitt responding? How is the White House responding? Dina and Charles, next. Support comes from ZBiotics. And listen, I'm honest with y'all. When I go out with friends, especially around the holidays, I still want to wake up the next morning and feel like myself. And that's where this comes in. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic You take it before your first drink, not during, not after, before, and it helps break down that nasty byproduct in the gut that actually causes rough mornings. I tried it for the first time before a long dinner party with friends, and I did what I had to do. And the next morning, I woke up ready to go. No drama, no, why did I do that last night? Just normal. So if you are hopping from holiday party to holiday party with family and friends, gathering, football, Sundays, bring ZBiotics with you. Go to zbiotics.com/lemon to get 15% off of your first order with the code LEMON at checkout. They've got a 100% money back guarantee. So if you don't love it, you get your money back, no questions. Okay, that's zbiotics.com/lemon, the code LEMON as well. Make the most of every toast this season. Support for the show comes from Heat Holders. Now, let me tell you something. If you have watched this show long enough, you know that I run cold, and my family and everyone laughs because I always have a blanket hanging around or some thick socks or something like that. And Heat Holders, yes, they are my winter uniform. The socks are no joke. They're scientifically tested to be 7 times warmer than cotton, and they feel 7 times warmer. Now, I wear mine around the house or on morning walks, out with the dogs. My feet just refuse to suffer anymore. And the best part of Heat Holders, that they took the same warmth and they put it into everything, their hats, their gloves, their base layer, their pajamas, even blankets. I've been loving their fleece lounge pants lately. Perfect for those chilly winter nights when you're editing or reading or just scrolling or whatever it is you're doing to unwind. They've got over 40,000 5-star reviews. So it's not just me. Right now, through Cyber Monday, go to heatholders.com and use the code DON for 25% off. Orders have $25 shipped free too, okay? Orders of at least $25 ship free too. So that's heatholders.com, code DON. Stay warm from head to toe. I know I do. All right, now back with our panel of legal experts. Thanks for being with us today. We really appreciate it. Okay, so I want to discuss, let's talk about the White House response, all right? Because we've heard from James Comey. This is what Caroline Leavitt is saying in regards to Comey and about him refiling on Fox News. Here it is.
What's White House response to that, and what can we expect will happen next, Caroline?
Well, what I will say is that everybody knows that James Comey lied to Congress. It's as clear as day. And this judge took an unprecedented action to throw these cases out to shield James Comey and Letitia James from accountability based on a technical ruling. And the administration disagrees with that technical ruling. We believe the attorney in this case, Lindsay Halligan, is not only extremely qualified for this position, but she was in fact legally appointed. And I know the Department of Justice will be appealing this in very short order. So maybe James Comey should pump the brakes on his victory lap.
What do you say to that, Dina?
Well, it was interesting what she said there, how well, for one, that whether or not somebody's validly appointed is not a technicality. But she said, she made it sound like he was some sort of advocate judge dismissing it. But in the opinion, I love that he cited this, that Judge Cannon dismissed Trump's indictment because she found that Jack Smith wasn't validly appointed as special counsel. If you remember, years ago, that was the whole argument.
Right.
She said he wasn't validly appointed and dismissed it. And he mentions this in the opinion, I think, as a way of being proactive over this kind of rhetoric that you are giving him special treatments, citing that as, hey, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And that's the thing for all of us who are really don't like a lot of maybe things like Judge Cannon do. It does come around once you make law. It applies to everybody. So Karen Leavitt's really good at just her own, Trump talking points. It doesn't matter if it's true. It doesn't matter, any of that nonsense. But I think the judge was proactive in seeing that in making that point.
Go ahead, Charles.
I think it's also important to step back and understand that it is not usual for the White House to be commenting on DOJ prosecutions. I want to challenge you and any viewer to think back to any time during the Biden administration, during the Obama administration, during previous administrations where the White House was weighing in on active prosecutions by the DOJ. It was a huge mess when there were photographs of the previous Attorney General first Black Attorney General, the name is escaping me, I apologize, when they just sat and talked on the tarmac at Air Force One with
Loretta Lynch.
Yes, when Loretta Lynch was just talking to President Obama, it was huge because of the amount of independence that office is supposed to have. So the fact that we have the White House press secretary who's not only commenting on an active DOJ prosecution, but also telling us affirmatively that the DOJ is going to appeal is a level of just commingling around information and conversation that is not supposed to happen. So I want people to understand they're moving forward as if this degree of information is normal and this type of narrative control is a normal thing. It is not. It is not, and it's arguably not even appropriate for her to have any comment. But again, because they
wait, Charles, you're saying she shouldn't have a comment. Her comment should be, we're going to leave this up to the Justice Department.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. They are an independent agency and the arbiter. And so your opinion about that, you shouldn't even know what the DOJ's plans are.
Okay, then I want to play this and get your response to it, because this is her again, if I get in the middle here. This is her again saying, you know what? Donald Trump wants to refile as soon as possible. And should she? Okay, here she is. I'll let her say it.
So Caroline, is the president more determined now, since the judge's ruling today, to go after James Comey and Tish James? And if so, why?
I wouldn't say he's going after them. I think the president is more determined than ever to see accountability in this country, yes, and to correct the wrongs of the weaponization of our justice system that we saw under the previous administration and Joe Biden.
Go ahead.
This is absurd. I mean, it is, and the only reason, Don, that this is even permissible is because there are too many Americans who don't understand how inappropriate that this is. Like, there are too many people who don't understand and don't have an appreciation for how inappropriate it is for the White House, the executive branch, to sort of be openly, brazenly putting its thumb on the scale and letting the public know through the press, hey, this is how the president feels about this, and this is what they're going to do. Again, think about the myriad cases that arose during the administration of Barack Obama. You had Darren Wilson with Michael Brown and Ferguson. You had any number of cases, and the White House was repeatedly asked for comment, and they would not, because they were like, this is an ongoing prosecution. We don't get involved with DOJ. Same thing with the Biden administration in terms of high-profile cases there. We don't get involved with the DOJ. And yet, 180 degrees opposite, polar opposite, we have this administration basically saying, look, we're quarterbacking what the DOJ is going to do based off of how the president feels about it. And here's what you can expect, which is really, really abhorrent.
Dina, are you surprised to hear her speaking that way?
I think Charles is 1000% right. And, I feel like Trump is similar to Nixon, but like by 10 times. After Nixon, they changed so many laws, right? And it's the same thing. Sometimes I wonder, is it that Trump is lawless, or is it that we have bad laws? Like, maybe it shouldn't just be a tradition that the White House can't get involved in DOJ matters. Like, maybe it shouldn't be a tradition that all candidates for president give us their tax returns. Like, we have to start acting like this is some sort of gentleman's club. Our democracy is way too important, and Congress has to change the laws, make it illegal for the Trump, the president, or to get involved in DOJ legislation. Let's not count on people's better, actions. We learned with Nixon what a president's willing to do to abuse their power. We're learning this 10 times that with Trump. But I also think that her statement is going to be exhibit 1 for the selective prosecution hearing that Letitia James has. The more they talk, the more they sink themselves, right? I mean, the Trump president shouldn't care about a mortgage fraud case. Even if that is what it is, it's not even something that truly affects everybody. It's not like the charges have to do with stealing government money or stealing, something to do with the job. For the idea that a president would even be so involved is such good evidence for her and Comey and a selective prosecution.
Dina and Charles, I need you to stand by for a bit, please. And then we'll pick this up. Hold that thought, please, Charles. Thank you so much. I want to bring in now Congressman Eric Swalwell from the great state of California, also running for governor and made that announcement. Congratulations.
Don, thanks for having me.
Yeah. And good luck, as you know. Well, how do you think Donald Trump is feeling today? Maybe I should ask you, how are James Comey and Letitia James feeling today?
Well, they're certainly feeling validated in declaring their innocence, so affirmatively and so loudly as they did. And it was nonsense when he went after Comey. It was nonsense when he went after Tish James and then Adam Schiff and others. And it'll be nonsense next week when some new name who's been a longtime enemy of the president is investigated or indicted. But this is what he does. Don, it just happens to be that the most thin-skinned, insecure person in the world, coincidentally, is also president of the United States. So that's what we end up seeing, right? He weaponizes the DOJ to go after his enemies. If you make a joke about him, he takes you off the air. If you're a blue state governor and you speak out against him, he pulls your state's cancer research funding, as we've seen in California. That's just who he is. And the more we can stack up victories like this, we make him smaller and we make ourselves bigger.
What do you think about? We just played the soundbite of Caroline Leavitt saying this was, this was dismissed on a technicality. They don't believe it was a technicality. Someone being hired unlawfully or appointed unlawfully, as the judge ruled, that doesn't sound like a technicality to me. That sounds like a legal blunder.
Well, yes, and frankly, the judge did them a favor because the jury was going to swiftly acquit these two individuals. And then what was she going to do? Was she going to insult the juries and say they, the jurors of their peers, the people in their community under our, Constitution who get to cast judgment? What are they a technicality too? Again, it's always something with these folks. It's never, looking inward at your own responsibility or culpability, for this corruption.
Yeah. I want to play this. We'll talk a little bit more about this. Before I get to that, what do you think about the refiling of these? A waste of time. They said they're going to do it. There's going to be hurdles. Number one, on the Comey case, the statute of limitations will run out. Yeah. And then also they have to find a prosecutor or someone who wants to do this. And also that person has to be appointed legally. So it seems like there are hurdles, but I wouldn't put anything past this administration, Congressman.
Well, I would tell any prosecutor who's looking at that, like, how much do you care about your bar card, right? Like, at some point, you cannot be protected by the Department of Justice if your state bar believes you are bringing cases that you cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt. That is a former prosecutor. That's the standard, Don. It's not. So just so your viewers know, and I think they'd appreciate just kind of like a walkthrough of how this works. Yes, to get a grand jury indictment, it's essentially more likely or not did the individual do it. That's the grand jury standard. But the prosecutor standard to even go to the grand jury is not, can I get an indictment? It's, can I prove beyond a reasonable doubt to all 12 jurors that this person's guilty? If you start by saying, I can only get an indictment, but I probably can't prove this to a jury, then you're not allowed to bring it. And so they all put their bar cards at risk if they do this, meaning that they would not be able to practice law like Rudy Giuliani if they know they can't prove it and they still try and do it.
I want to turn now to Senator Mark Kelly. The Pentagon investigating him now because of that video put out by service members, lawmakers who are service members. They're asking to have, I think he's going to go in front of a military, is he court-martialed or whatever? The Pentagon says it's investigating Senator Mark Kelly over video urging troops to defy illegal orders. Let me just play Ruben Gallego's response, and then I want to hear yours. Here it is.
Hey, this is Ruben Gallego. I'm traveling through Arizona right now, and I just received the news that the Department of Defense is starting an investigation against my seatmate, Mark Kelly. This is fucking insane. We should all point out how fucking insane this is. And, these guys are trying to say that they're not acting like fascists. They're not trying to give as much power to this president as a king, and they should stop acting like it. Mark Kelly's a patriot. There's no reason why they're going after him. He was doing his duty and just reminding people about their rights as service members. And, Secretary Hegseth, all these guys, fuck you guys. You're not going to be able to scare us. We have a right to defend the Constitution of the United States. We have a right to tell other service members that they have a right to ignore illegal orders, and you're not going to be able to intimidate us.
I mean,
I love that
next time
guy.
you should say it how he really
I fucking
feels.
love that guy. I'll tell you why I fucking love that guy, because he says that not just with conviction, he says it with credibility, because I want you to know that guy, first in his family to go to college, never slept on a bed until he went to Harvard, and actually left Harvard to go to the battlefield in Iraq as an enlisted Marine. So he can talk tough like that because nothing he has seen in this political realm is tougher than what he saw on the battlefield. So I don't think anyone can say it better than Ruben. And to me, the only reason you go after Mark Kelly, if he's telling soldiers you don't have to follow an unlawful order, and they don't, is if you intend to carry out unlawful orders, right? Like if you don't intend to carry out unlawful orders, why do you care that somebody would say that? So you just told on yourself by making this a thing.
It seems like Democrats have backed the Republicans into a corner, or Donald Trump, because basically they're telling people to ignore the Constitution and not to follow the law or the military code of conduct. Am I wrong on that?
Yes, they're telling on themselves now, because they're like, no, we want to do that, and so stop telling the troops to do that. What gives me hope, though, Don, and I talk to service members all the time, and they tell me that I don't appreciate enough, and the public doesn't appreciate enough, that while Congress is not a check on the president anymore, and the judiciary at the Supreme Court is hardly a check, military members have told me we can be a check in full order, and so they're essentially saying we're not going to betray our oath to the Constitution because this guy tells us to, and that, while it's not codified that way, like I said, they're not a branch of government on their own. Their honor and integrity might just save us.
Let me just play this real quick for you, and I want your response. Here's Caroline Levitt on Mark Kelly, the investigation.
Investigation into Mark Kelly, and what do you make of his response that it's just intimidation?
The White House is supportive of the Department of War's investigation into Senator Mark Kelly, and I think what Senator Mark Kelly was actually trying to do was intimidate the 1.3 million active duty service members who are currently serving in our United States Armed Forces with that video that he and his Democrat colleagues put out. Senator Mark Kelly well knows the rules of the military and the respect that one must have for the chain of command, and that all lawful orders are presumed to be legal by our service members. You can't have a functioning military if there is disorder and chaos within the ranks, and that's what these Democrat members were encouraging. It's very
Okay, first of all, I don't want to be Ruben Gallego, but what the F is she talking about? Because
She doesn't know.
Go on.
And Don, I'm not coming on your show again if you play one more clip from her.
Okay. I want you to respond.
I'm always dumber after I listen to her. But yes. What they're trying to do, though, is they're trying to prevent the next Mark Kelly from speaking up. And really, they're trying to prevent a Republican from breaking ranks, right? So it's a message. So when he launched this investigation into me 2 weeks ago, it wasn't a coincidence that he was always seeing these Epstein files about to be voted on. And so what he was doing was, yes, he's going after me punitively in retaliation, but he's also, the twin aim is to send a message to Thomas Massie or Lauren Boebert, like, I can also come after you. And so what they're doing here is they figure that, Democrats are going to speak out against them, but they know that the second a Republican starts to speak out, that's when it really cracks. And privately, I hear Republicans are concerned about the president. It's just, do they cross that courage Rubicon and say it publicly?
That's what I wanted to go to next quickly. I want to talk to you about this and about your run real quickly. But first, I want to know, because this is a club that Letitia James knows, James Comey knows, John Bolton knows, and others who are political rivals, and you. How are you feeling about your case? How do you feel now?
Again, I'm in the same drawer is Schiff and James and Cook. It's nonsense. But I know that there will be more who he wants to put into that drawer because we have gone after him. But Don, he's doing it because he thinks that we're going to shrink, go silent, hide under the bed, and I'm not. I only like to play on one side of the ball, and that's on offense. And so you have to stay on that side if you're going to protect the most vulnerable in our community. It's also the only language he understands. And we have a governor in our state right now who plays offense. And when Trump, comes after Californians, he doesn't send an 8-page strongly worded letter. He sues on behalf of Californians and wins in the courts. When Texas tried to, fuck over our chances of winning the midterms by, rigged districting and taking 5 seats, we went to the voters and we got 5 seats back. And so the show don't tell style is the only way that you can, take on this guy and protect the most vulnerable that you represent.
So listen, this is the last thing I want to talk to you about, and don't take this the wrong way. I'm not trying to be dismissive, but there are mixed feelings about you running for governor because people love you as a congressman. I think that you're a very effective congressman, and we need representation in Washington like you. So the thing is like, okay, yes, I would like him to be governor of California, but I also like him as a congressman. You obviously think it's more effective to be the governor of California than you do to be a congressman?
At this moment, right now, yes, this is an existential crisis for Californians. And the next governor has 2 jobs: to keep Donald Trump, one, out of our homes, streets, and lives, because he has declared war on Californians who are running through farm fields where they work, who have troops in our streets, who see their cancer research funding being pulled by this guy. But 2, there is a cost crisis in our state. And as a parent of 3 little kids, married to a woman who works very hard, I know that you should not have to wait until you're 40 years old to be able to buy your first home. And so I will attack that cost crisis, but be a modernizing force also for the state. Don, I love my job. I would love to be in the majority with Speaker Jeffries and the team, but California is the greatest country in the world. We are a nation state, and it needs a fighter protector, but also somebody who can make sure when you say we're the 4th largest economy in the world, it means something to somebody because they have a stake in it, they have a share in it, they have skin in the game. So that's why I'm running.
Okay, so the people are very positive. We need him as our governor. He's a badass. Someone says Governor Swalwell. Another person says go Eric.
We're working on it.
So Congressman, thank you very much. It's good to see you. We appreciate your time, and good luck to you.
Same.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
Eric Swalwell. All right. More with our panel. We're going to talk about, get a response to the congressman's comments, and we're going to bring our panel back. We have Dina Dahl with us. Attorney Symone Redwine will join us. Also, Charles Coleman Jr. will join us. It's going to be a smorgasbord of sensation. First, a word from our sponsors. The Don Lemon Show today is sponsored by Lean, by Brickhouse Nutrition. And listen, this is 1 week of the year when even doctors do Black Friday. Brickhouse is having their biggest sale of the year, 30% off of everything. Now, if you have been thinking about getting your health back on track, this is a time. Their product Lean is for people who want real weight loss support without shots or needles. Doctor formulated, easy, and honestly, it works. They've also got Creatone, which is creatine specifically designed for women who want to feel toned and energized without extra dieting or extra workouts. And Field of Greens, which is the only fruit and veggie blend actually shown in a university study to slow aging. Every product, sleep, collagen, gut health, 30% off. No hoops, no hidden catches. Just head over to brickhousesale.com. That's brickhousesale.com. One more time, brickhousesale.com, and get your 30% off while it lasts. Support for the show comes from MSI. Let me tell you about MSI Reproductive Choices. They're on the ground in 36 countries providing contraception, safe abortion, and essential reproductive health care. And in a lot of these places, they're the only provider women have. It has been a tough year for women and girls, especially in the remote areas MSI serves. International aid has been cut. Programs are disappearing. Clinics are closing. Options are shrinking. But MSI is still standing. After the first Trump administration, they worked to diversify their funding so that they wouldn't rely on the United States government. Even then, they still lost $20 million. And they're still showing up every day. How? Because people refuse to look away. People like you who believe women deserve choices and that healthcare is a human right. Because donors stepped up, millions of women still have access to care and to hope. So if you want to help keep that going, you can text Don to 511-511 or go to msiunitedstates.org. That's M for modern, S for safe, I for informed. $65 provides contraception for 10 women for a full year. That is real impact. Text LEMON to 511-511 or visit msiunitedstates.org. Text fees may apply. We are back now with Dina Dahl, an attorney, legal analyst, and a host on the Midas Touch Network. Charles Coleman is here as an MSNBC legal analyst and a former prosecutor and a civil rights attorney. Also joining us is Symone Redwine, an attorney, legal analyst, and law professor. Okay, you guys heard what what Eric Swalwell had to say about it. He was very, very blunt about this. Were you listening to his comments, Symone? What did you think? You're muted.
Yeah, and I totally support them. Listen, he's right. It's time to stop playing nice guy, right? We have to fight fire with fire. We've been playing this gentleman's, air quote, gentleman's game for long enough. And I totally understand what he's saying as far as wanting to move now into the role of governor because we need him. And then this is a good time to use Democratic leadership to start training up other Democrats to take in those roles that he'll be leaving, like Rep.
Charles, you wanted to respond to something I said to hold that thought. But I mean, the Trump folks, and you get that in, but the Trump folks are always talking about lawfare, right? And going after Biden wanted to go after people. Biden didn't go after anyone. People were pissed off at Merrick Garland. This is lawfare to the highest level.
Look, I think that whether you are someone who believes that previous administrations have used the DOJ to go after their political enemies, there is one thing that is not in dispute, and that is this administration has been far more open and blatant about their intentions and their actions than anything that we've seen in the past. And what I wanted to do, Don, was connect Dina's point to something that I said earlier. There are additional grounds for dismissal on the case against Letitia James should her case be refiled. But the administration is demonstrating how little they understand about this process because they keep yapping on the record and giving them clear material that is going to appear in any motion to dismiss. All of those comments that you heard from Caroline Leavitt, all of those statements that Donald Trump has made on social media targeting Letitia James are going to appear in briefs to dismiss the case against Letitia James. It's public knowledge. These are comments that are made in public record. They aren't things that are sort of like subject to any sort of privilege and that they can't be. They would be things that you would have to stipulate to. And ultimately what that means is that the prosecution is going to have no way of keeping them out of court. And so when the administration is basically telegraphing its intentions, as we've been talking about all night, and Representative Swalwell also talked about, it only hurts them in the long run because the dismissal for selective and vindictive prosecution is made that much stronger.
Isn't that just arrogance? So hubris here, Dina, because they want to, spread their feathers or whatever you call it, to look like, hey, we're not afraid, we're going to do it. You know what I mean? It's just puffery at this point. And to Charles's point, all this puffery is giving the opponent the information as to what their strategy is going to be and how they should respond.
Absolutely. I mean, they love to lie to the American people, but it backfires because, like Charles said, it will be used against them in court for sure. And just to kind of point out a little bit about Ruben Gallego and the conversation you were having with Eric Swalwell, because I'm so struck by the fact that they are going after Mark Kelly, who is in Arizona, a purple state. I'm actually filming out of Arizona right now. I grew up part in some of my childhood here, and Republicans in Arizona are different than Republicans in different parts of the country. It's an independent streak. There's the reason why they elected McCain time and time again. It's like they don't like government interference. It's all about the Wild West. We get to decide. And to have the government go after Mark Kelly. I mean, Ruben Gallego, who, showed himself to have such courage during January 6th as a representative, then became a senator here, in part because of that courage and bravery. And This seems like a weird political calculation when Trump and MAGA are like completely fracturing. That the one person, there were so many people on that video, the one that you're going to go after is from the state of Arizona. I think it's going to really backfire for the Republican Party here.
So the Pentagon says that it's going to investigate Senator Mark Kelly after that controversial video. It launched the investigation into the senator now. Purportedly, they said after purportedly receiving serious allegations of misconduct against a Democratic senator from Arizona, an extraordinary use of authority to investigate a combat veteran and prominent critic of the Trump administration. That's what the Washington Post is saying. This is how the senator is responding. He says, when I was 22 years old, I commissioned, let me make this because, my eyes aren't what they used to be. I'm no spring chicken. When I was 22 years old, I commissioned as an ensign in the United States Navy and swore an oath to the Constitution. I upheld that oath through flight school, multiple deployments on the USS Midway, 39 combat missions in Operation Desert Storm, test pilot school, 4 space shuttle flights at NASA, and every day since I retired, which I did after my wife Gabby was shot in the head while serving her constituents. In combat, I had a missile blow up next to my jet and flew through anti-aircraft fire to drop bombs on my enemy's targets at NASA. And then he goes on. And I mean, what more do you need? He said his classmates died on Columbia, his classmates, one of his astronaut classmates. Secretary Hegseth's tweet is the first he's heard of this. I also saw the president's post saying that I should be arrested, hanged, and put to death. And then there's a photograph of him with his bars. I mean, Symone, come on now.
This is ridiculous. Not like this, but you guys, this is what it looks like when they're trying to distract you from the real BS that's going on. They want to distract us from our healthcare premiums, the way that they're tripling. They want to distract us from all these other things. They're pointing to him and implying that he's a traitor. Well, we already know. We already know who the biggest traitor is, right? It was the guy who led January 6th. So it's important that when you have these shenanigans, right? Because this man likes to shenanigan and again and again, that we stay focused and we continue to hammer our senators and our reps over the healthcare that we're fixing to lose and all of those other things that really impact our day to day. This ain't it.
This ticks me off, Charles, when I see that, because this guy has served, not only has he served his country in the military, but he served his country now as a public servant. And his wife almost paid the ultimate sacrifice as a public servant when she was a target of political violence.
And there's an important irony that cannot be escaped here, Don. For what it's worth, Senator Mark Kelly has lived the life that all of these people sort of in their minds aspire to, right? Like he is the actual combat, tough guy, war veteran hero that Pete Hegseth wishes he could claim in terms of the depth and extent of his resume, right? Like he's the G.I. Joe in real life, whereas like Magaland is wrought, whether it's the ICE agents, whether it's the DHS officials, whether it's the Department of War folks, who are sort of romanticized with a version of their own toughness and America first and how patriotic they are, that it's based on a true story. And the true story is actually that of Mark Kelly. And I think that there's an irony about that, because here you are vilifying your own hero, and at the same time trying your damnness to recreate his heroics. And that is something that highlights, to the point that Symone just made, the distraction and also the deflection, because you're trying to deflect away from these things while remaining wholly inconsistent when you consider what you espouse as your values and your virtues and what you attack now based off of political ideology and partisan affiliation. And that is something that we cannot lose sight of. Like Mark Kelly is the hero that y'all wish that y'all were.
Yeah, Charles, thank you so much for saying that. And I was going to say, I'm glad you said it. What I was going to say, Dina, is the nerve of this administration to target someone like him, especially considering what he's gone through, and it just sort of his response just reminds you. And this administration, I'm just going to be very blunt and speak, in the vernacular or colloquially. They have the nerve to, you know what I mean? Like they could never. They have the nerve, and they think that this is a good look by going after not only someone who has served this country, but someone whose wife was a target of political violence and who also served this country. It's I don't know. I don't understand it.
Well, I think you're right. They could never. I mean, really. And I for him to choose to go into public office after she was not only shot, but so severely injured, that to me, wow. I don't know how many people would be willing to take that role. And then to have Trump then repost things about hanging him, clear political violence. But he did the thing that they can't, right? Anytime somebody criticizes Trump, or, he always has his long Truth Social posts and he attacks somebody, right? And he says how awful they are, usually about how they look. And his post was about himself. He didn't need to go after and disparage anyone else because he does have, as Charles said, the experience, the resume, and that kind of ability. Like Trump can't stand on business, as you would say, about himself because he doesn't. Like he's just been a bankrupt, he's a convicted felon, had so many bankruptcies. He doesn't have that resume, I guess you can say. But Mark Kelly has lived the life to have the character. And frankly, he's not even overtly that political. He is from a purple state. He votes very moderately. He speaks very moderately. For them to come after him, not only with that resume, but frankly, with that political actions he takes, he's very well liked. And it's really hard to call him a leftist or an extremist or anything like that. It's a crazy political calculation to me that they went after him. But I think it spoke for himself, that statement, because he was able to, instead of trying to disparage somebody else, he was able to just say who he was. And that's enough. And that is priceless, to be able to just have yourself be enough.
From Mark Kelly now to New York AG Letitia James now putting out a statement, excuse me, that says, I am heartened by today's victory and grateful for the prayers and support I have received from around the country. I remain fearless in the face of these baseless charges as I continue fighting for New Yorkers every single day. None of these folks is backing down, Symone.
Not at all. And Letitia James's case is in a really unique position where Lindsay Halligan better really worry about her bar license being shoved up her bottom, because with Letitia James's case, it was discovered that in that one, there were two different grand juries that were pulled together. There was the one in Norfolk that did not indict. And that grand jury was the one that heard Letitia James's niece say, I never paid any rent. She didn't make any money from this. But then when it was presented to the grand jury in Alexandria, they omitted that evidence. They never told that to the grand jury. And that was how they were able to get that indictment. So if they attempt again, because there doesn't appear to be a statute of limitations lapse in Letitia James's case. So if they represent to that grand jury and they do not present the fact that the niece said, there was no rent. And not only that, the bar there is so low because this is not, the argument is an investment property. It's a second property where she only has to show that at least 15 days across the entire year, she spent time at that home. That's a really simple bar. And I believe that is a large part of why they couldn't find anyone else to try and indict her on that. So Lindsay Halligan's got a really tough hurdle, even if they decide to bring this again.
You can find Symone Redwine on the Girl Is That Legal show right here on YouTube. You can find Mr. Charles Coleman everywhere. Find him on this show. You can also find him on MSNBC as a legal analyst, and his own show on, you have an Instagram show, is that correct?
Yes, the Brothers Briefing every Wednesday at 7:30.
And I've been a part of that show, and please have me back on. I love being on.
We will.
And then Dina Dahl is an attorney, legal analyst, and a host on the Midas Touch Network. Thank you all. If I don't see you before, because I may very well see you with the crazy news cycle. Have a fantastic Thanksgiving, and I hope you're with people you love this week.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. We'll see you soon. So, guys, there you go. You're caught up on this crazy news that we have. I think I've given, everything. We may have a couple of picks. Do we have any? First of all, let me tell you how you can find us. Go to donlemon.com. You go to donlemon.com. We're right there. And I want you guys to do this. Go check. Go to donlemon.com and then click on watch. Make sure when you click on that, you can subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, it'll tell you. See where it says subscribe? That means I'm subscribed to my own channel, or my team is subscribed to their own channel. And you can also become a member. If you hit the join button, you can hit the join button, and then the memberships are extremely reasonable. What'd you say?
Call 2 friends.
Oh. Subscribe and call 2 friends, and they call 2 friends, and they call 2 friends, and so on and so on and so on. That was a hair commercial back in the 70s. But send the link to our channel page to your friends and coworkers and everyone, and tell them to come subscribe. We're closing in on 1 million, and we're very proud of that. So help us get there. Maybe it'll be a nice Thanksgiving for us, something to be really thankful for, growing this community. Almost there. 10,000 folks watching right now, or as we say, that's concurrently. Is that how we say it? And so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you hit that thumbs up, more people become aware. Also, our merch store is there, and we've got our holiday collection. We're getting more stuff in on the holiday collection. We've got the socks. We've got the ornament. The ornament is great. I hear the ornament is a big hit over on the Shopify. And then we have the socks a little bit further down. You've got the mug. You've got the tumbler, and all the winter stuff. And then the socks are down, right, Andy? If you scroll, there you go. So there you go. Okay. So make sure you're subscribed. Go grab your husband's phone, or your wife's phone, or your girlfriend's phone, or your boyfriend's phone, or your kid's phone, and hit the subscribe button on the Don Lemon Show on YouTube. Okay. So we got do we have some pics?
Yep. We have 3 photos today.
Oh, old people be knowing, that's my favorite. Who's this?
This is Tanisha in Thailand.
Tanisha is beautiful. Nice to see you, Tanisha. You're a gorgeous lady. Thank you for your support. And yes, old people be knowing, but you wouldn't know that because you're young. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Monica in DC.
Hey, Monica. I know her. I've seen her with Jolly before. Hi, Monica. Thank you for your support. She's got the black Lemonation hat. It's fairly new on the website, in the merch store. And there's our friend Jolly, friend of the show, our chief Washington correspondent on the Don Lemon Show. So thank you for your support.
And then lastly, we have Cassidy in Virginia.
Another beautiful lady. My goodness, look at that. The hair is hairing, the lips are lipping, the skin is skinning. I love the mug. And then she has a Don Lemon sweatshirt on behind that, right? We can't see it. What's her name again? Carrie?
Cassidy.
Cassidy. Thank you, Cassidy, for your support. We appreciate it. All right, that's it. Look, I want you to be informed without being inundated. I'm going to see you back here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time for Hot Topics. So the Don Lemon Show and the Don Lemon Channel, I'll see you at 10. Until then, be informed without being inundated, and turn the TV off. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern time, with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.